Hello again, this is Nick Roach. We're inside because it's start of January and it's quite cold outside, so hope this works okay. I'd like to say a few words about anxiety. Again, this is a subject which is new to me because I've had people contacting me suffering with anxiety. And I'm still looking at the process of how to deal with it. Because surprisingly, it's not the same as what I've already dealt with myself. For me, I went through a lot of stress where there was a problem outside of myself, a situation which I found emotionally difficult to deal with. The situation was outside and I was in it for a long time, lots of different ones, but in it for a long time, and it was causing me emotional stress. And the moment I was out of the situation, I felt better. But I had to go back into it to another one, and it caused me more stress. Likewise, I had situations that caused me emotional upset and pain, emotional disturbance. The problem, a situation, several of them I had to deal with for many years sometimes, a long time, or it might be little problems, emotional disturbances related to the bigger one. But again, it was something happened outside that caused a disturbance inside, and I would have to stay conscious and dissolve the energy inside, make conscious, which was creating the outside, and dissolve the emotion, and I became more conscious as I dealt with each emotional situation. That's been my life, and that's my autobiography, and that's my teaching and the videos. It's all been about that. But recently I've had a number of people contact me who suffer with anxiety. And I'm not a psychotherapist, a counsellor, a psychologist, so if I'm not using any terms correctly, please excuse me. I only dealt with my own emotions and share others what I went through, how I did it, and it helps other people where it does. Anxiety has been explained to me, the people I'm speaking with, is a base level fear that something might happen. So the situation hasn't even happened yet. There can be a base level fear all the time, and then the moment they put a thought into it, that might happen, this might happen, it might simply be, this fear is so bad, what if it gets worse? And of course, putting that thought, which is unconscious energy, into this emotional fear does indeed make it feel worse. And oh my God, now it has got worse, which I was afraid of. Oh my God, that really has got worse. What happens if it gets worse than this? And the whole thing spirals and gets bigger and bigger every time, with the attitude on it, the question, what if it gets worse than this? And it does indeed get worse. And then this anxiety tack builds up, and it just, all different physical situations, physical ailments and symptoms can happen. But so much of it is what if, and that causes physical symptoms. The physical situation, the problem, may not exist at all. It's all anxiety. It's all imagination, starting off with this base level of fear, which is already there. So as you might be able to see, that is quite different from having a problem in one's life which causes me a disturbance, and I have to deal with this problem. Having a base level of fear in oneself when nothing's happened. Some people feel extreme pain in different bits of their body, and it's already there, physical pain. And again, nothing's happened, just this fear. So how to deal with this? Well, as I said, this is a work in progress for me as well. And because I have never had anxiety, I can't test anything out for myself. Usually everything I say is in my own experience. I've done it. I've worked through it. I know it works for me. If someone else can't do it, or for some reason it doesn't work for them, I can't necessarily help that. But I know it worked for me, and I can explain why. Now, what's been happening with some of the people I've been speaking with about anxiety? One or two of them very determined to do as I've always said, face the emotion. A few moments ago I created a video on loving yourself, the inner child, and this leads on from that. I almost did them as one video, but I thought that might be too long and complicated, so I've divided them, but it's a similar, the same message. So the couple of people who particularly have been trying to do my teaching of being conscious with the emotion, of course they can't feel the disturbance. Excuse me, see little the feathers on the hairs. They can't feel disturbance in relation to the situation. There isn't one. So what they're left with is just the emotional fear. When they come conscious and feel the body and feel the breathing, what they've got left is this base level fear. And one particular person has worked very hard to go through this fear, in the belief that eventually one will go through it. But what happened is he was so concentrated, so determined to go through it. It's the emotion that was trying to attack the emotion, as I see it. The fear of it getting worse was driving him to try and go through it, and so it doesn't get worse. And the fear, the determination, the wanting to do it so much is what was actually feeding it. And he says he managed to several times go right through it, and it got vast. It was just so incredibly painful, but he's going there and eventually he seemed to go through it. But my own caution with that is that I'm concerned what he was doing by being conscious and fighting it like that. The emotion in him that what wanted to deal with it was feeding it, getting bigger and bigger, and he managed to experience it consciously, and as we said, it comes in waves, emotion does, and eventually the emotion had burnt itself out. So it had no energy left. But it hadn't been, perhaps, it hadn't been experienced necessarily consciously in the way that I'd like, because the emotion attacked it. It may have served him, I don't know. All I know is what started to happen at times is he's going through it, fighting it, it's getting worse and worse and worse, but then once or twice the slightest thought, and it's so powerful, is off. Thinking in the emotion, and it became pretty horrible. So what's the alternative? If you've got this base level of fear, and you're not going to go through it, there's no good avoiding it, because the base level of fear is still there. Well, this is what we've been working through. He said to me the other day that he'd been, one of the people, he read a book by a Buddhist monk who suffered with anxiety as a child, and as a teenager, having learnt to meditate, he sat for several days with his anxiety, and he did manage to go through it, and it never came back. But as we were talking, I was talking with him, the chap telling him the story that he'd read, and I said to him, did he attack it? Because I can't see that would work. Or was he able to gently feel it and support it, as I described in the loving yourself, in a child video. He said actually that is what he describes doing. And so again, this got me thinking, is that what's required? Obviously one has to be ready to do it, must be strong enough to do it, but the strength mustn't be a determination of emotion. I'm going to do this, because that is the emotion that still will feed the anxiety. If one is strong enough to be conscious and aware of the surroundings, of your body, your hands and feet, your legs, of the breathing, and feel this pain and accept the discomfort, not attack it, but not think about anything that's going to cause a problem, that would feed it. Attacking it will feed it with emotion, and thinking about anything else will feed it. So purely just support it. Because anxiety, if the fear that something might happen, if you're conscious and aware, it's a safe environment. And by supporting it with positive energy, this feeling, perceiving it with positive energy, it is again a lot like, if not exactly like, the inner child issue, where it needs to be supported positively. If it's pure fear, if you've got a child which is terrified, again, beating it with a stick to stop it being scared is not going to work. In a way, when I deal with emotion, that's almost what I'm doing. I'm holding it really tight, because it's not going to make me think of anything bad. I'm going to stay conscious. I'm going to deal with it. I am attacking it. And eventually it gives up and surrenders. But when it's fear of fear itself, fighting it like that makes it more afraid, builds the fear up, gives it a reason to be afraid. So instead, if one's able to feel the disturbance, feel the fear, and with positive attitude nurture it, nurture the entity inside that's afraid. It doesn't want to be afraid. Whatever it is that happened in you, however many years ago it was, that started this, the lack of love, the insecurity, whatever it is, someone said to you, you mustn't do that, or that will happen, you mustn't do that, you're very bad, you're horrible, and suddenly you get fear. But what if it does happen? Well, however it's formed in the first place, it's there now. So we want to stay conscious and feel the disturbance, the anxiety, but gently relaxed as much as possible. Just relax everything. We're not attacking it anymore. Anxiety, we're not attacking anxiety. We're being conscious and supporting the energy of it with consciousness. Then the energy, the entity inside, which is afraid, which is your own self, it is afraid. It's fear itself. It's being nurtured. There's no need to be afraid. It's being supported. It feels safe. And then it can relax. It's not being attacked. It's being held. It starts to relax, and it then becomes conscious. I forget whether that monk said he did it for 3 or 5 days, but however long, it worked. And again, it fits with what I've been looking at recently. But it does take effort. Even though it's effort to relax and let it be. One person said to me recently, it's like a spear through my heart though. How can I love a spear that's through my heart? That's a good point. But the spear through the heart is actually an emotional pain. It's unhappiness. It's a lack of love. And it feels like a spear through the heart, but it itself is a lack of consciousness. a lack of being and a lack of love, and you don't want to attack a lack of love with a lack of love. Like the old saying, fighting fire with fire. The lack of love, the fear, needs to know everything is safe, needs to know it is loved, needs to know it's all right. And so we relax and open up, relax the attitude and the positive energy, feel disturbance, and just hold it, nurture it again in a loving way, and stay with it. It might take a few days, but you've had the anxiety for years, so what's a few days? And you're going to feel the anxiety anyway, or you wouldn't be having the anxiety, let's say. So if you already have anxiety and you've had it for years, then are you able to do this? If it's already going to happen, then don't argue against experiencing it consciously, because you've already done everything you've tried to do over the years, and I guess it hasn't worked, or you wouldn't have anxiety anymore. And this is not contrary to anything else you've been told, I imagine. Whatever medication or whatever else you're on, this isn't going to counteract that. All we're saying is that be conscious and aware of where you are and of what you're feeling. And the disturbance in you, the emotional unhappiness, the fear, the what if, fear of what. Just gently feel it with conscious, positive intention. And don't give up, and don't let go. Just stay with it. Stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. Just as surely as if you had a child that was terrified, an absolutely terrified child, scared for its life. And you're with the child, you put your arm around it. If the child was still terrified after 10 minutes, would you say, oh, enough of you, look after yourself? Most of us wouldn't. Most of us wouldn't do that. Any decent human being would stay with the child. Stay with them. Get them through the bad time. Get them through so they realised, I'm okay. And this is what I'm saying to you. If you suffer with anxiety, feel the disturbance. Feel the fear. And that is the child, the inner child, that's terrified. Stay with it. And you're the adult now, the conscious adult, with your arm around it. Stay with it. Stay with the child. So it's no longer a spear through your heart, causing you pain. It's another child that's terrified, scared of it for its life. You just got to nurture it, support it, give it the positive energy, and stay with it, and keep staying with it. And if you drift off for a moment, it's like with the child. You're just going to make a cup of tea and you come back. I'm still with you, don't worry. Just keep coming back and stay with it, however long it takes. And again, I'd love to hear from people who do this, because I have never had anxiety. I've had an awful lot of emotion, but never had anxiety. So I can't test this for myself. It's a working theory, and it fits with other things I've heard. And it makes sense to me. But I can't test it and say, it's worked, except for the Buddhist monk, the story of him, it worked for him. And I haven't even read that myself. So this is second-hand information which fits with everything else I'm seeing, experiencing, but it needs people to try it and do it, please. You can let me know how it goes. Thank you.